Hey guys, Cal here, bringing you another Magic the Gathering video. This one is going to be my in Half Tails deck. We're going to try getting through it in 10 minutes. Hopefully we can. This is a little description. We'll go right into it. Pause it if you need to. In Half Tails is a 2-mana white creature, legendary Fox Cleric, with the ability to pay 1 colorless and a white to give target permanent you control protection from white, and 1 colorless mana, being target spell or permanent, becomes white until end of turn. A very unique effect that is really good at protecting your board. However, it's not very strong, and if you want to have a competitive, or at least a good 8.5 Tails deck, you kind of have to run these 2 cards, which I will go over now. The first card is Ugin, the Spirit Dragon. Ugin is a great planeswalker, comes down on 8, bolts something, but for the most part, we're running it for its -X ability. Exile each permanent with convert mana cost X or less, that's 1 or more colors. This means that with 8.5 Tails ability, you can make your opponent's lands white and exile them with this effect. So this is a land destruction win con, and I highly recommend, if you're not comfortable with doing this, you don't build 8.5 Tails. A lot of 8.5 Tails decks are either Pillowfort, Ugin, or Voltron. And Pillowfort and Voltron, you can find other homes for that isn't 8.5 Tails. If you want to do what 8.5 Tails does best, unfortunately, it is the Ugin way. And as someone who's played a lot of 8.5 Tails, this is kind of where you're going to end up if you want to be like competitive with random decks without feeling like you can't do anything quick enough. So definitely that's a little precursor disclaimer. If this isn't your type of deck, if you're not comfortable blowing up lands or playing slow, probably 8.5 Tails is not the deck for you. But let's keep on going. The second card we're going to go over is Sword of Feast and Famine. Sword of Feast and Famine gives your creature +2/+2 protection from black and green, and whenever it deals combat damage, that player discards a card and you untap all your lands. This makes it so that you can have really big Ugins, and I don't recommend running. If you are playing 8.5 Tails, you have to run these 2 cards, the Swords of Feast and Famine and the Ugin. Sword of Feast and Famine makes it so that when you attack, you can tap all your unused mana to make it so that you can make more lands white and get bigger Ugins. So those are the 2 big ones, Ugin, Sword of Feast and Famine. Let's get to the rest of the deck here. So Esper Sentinel, draw. Serra Ascendant, we have a great flyer, we have a lifelink, we lose a lot of life, we want to protect it. But mostly I use Serra Ascendant as a glorified 1 mana Ghostly Prison. If you feel like you're getting dunked on too much for playing Serra Ascendant, definitely cut it for a different card. Weathered Wayfarer has a great ramp capabilities, which I'll go over at the end of the video if you are interested on how to get 8 mana on turn 5. Alchemist of Ogma is your card draw. Cathar Commando is removal, interaction. Stoneforge Mystic is finding your equipment, one being the Sword of Feast and Famine. Aven Interrupter, you can swap this with any type of interaction you want. I just really like him. Having ability to counter something in white is very strong, but I understand if 3 mana is a bit of a tall ask. It's also a flying bird, so it holds swords well. Laura in Third Path is removal and a little bit of card draw if we need it. Has Vigilance, holds the sword great. Moonblessed Cleric gets us enchantments, which we'll talk about later. Ranger Captain of Eos is a silence, and it gets you one of your 1-drops that are up here. This one can be cut. It's mostly there for the silence. If you don't think you need the silence and you're trying to make this more budget, it's not a budget deck, but if you want to make it more budget, cut Ranger Captain for anything that you want. Recruit of the Guard finds all your good stuff. Skyclave Apparition, removal. Solemn is ramp. We have a high emphasis on ramp, and we're going to talk about that. We just want to make a ton of mana, and we like cards that also serve double duty as our ramp, as well as doing other jobs, which we'll get into as well. Witch Enchanter is land plus removal. Aerial Extortionist is really good. It comes in O-ring something, but it doesn't come back if he dies, which is great. They can always recast it, but you also draw a card whenever anyone casts anything, so it's outside of their hand. So it's removal as well as card draw, really great. Solitude is removal. Angel of Indemnity and Sun Titan are both creatures that ETB and get you a land from your graveyard, essentially, is basically what they read. But again, they're ramp, but if we don't need a ramp anymore, they are great utility creatures. So we have already 3 ETB rampers. We have Kozilek and Ulamog because we have a little combo in here with Mesmeric or Basalt Monolith, which we can go over later. But they're also great finishers, as Mono White has trouble finishing games sometimes, having 2 massive beaters in the command zone. I mean, not in the command zone, on the field that you can protect with your commander to close out games is a great way to do it. Steel Shaper's Gift, open the armory, find you equipment. Cut a Deal, draws you cards. Idyllic Tutor finds you enchantments, which we'll go over. Search for Glory finds you Ugin, as well as other card draw and other creatures, but mostly it's there for Ugin. Secret Rendezvous for draw. Savine's Reclamation is mostly going to be used for ramp, but again, serves double as recursion. Day Judgment, Wrath of God, Farewell, Hour of Revelation, Onto Inversion, all Wraths, all great. We like the Wrath of God and Day of Judgment because of my meta that I play against. However, we struggle against tokens, and we have good removal for like enchantments in the creature slot. So having an early Wrath is sometimes really nice just to get that out really early. And again, we do slow games, so we have a lot of Wraths. Enlightened Tutor is a tutor, finds us the good stuff. March of the Machines, March of Otherworldly Light, Path of Exile, Swords of Plowshare, Unwanted Remake are all removal, efficient removal. Brought Back brings back things that our opponents destroy, but also is ramp. This is what I'm talking about. Our ramp spells are not very conventional, but they also have utility outside of ramp. So in the early game, we can crack 2 fetches and get them both back with Brought Back to ramp us really quickly. And if we're in the late game where we don't need a ramp, it is great for bringing back permanents that may have died. We have Exercise Them Perfect, Generous Gift, Stoke of Midnight is removal. Cosmic Intervention is the same thing as Brought Back. It allows us to ramp as if we foretell it, or as if we use it and then crack a fetch land. That fetch land will come back, and then we can crack it again, and it will come back and we'll crack it again, making it so that we can use each fetch 3 times. And is a really good ramp, but of course is board wipe protection in the late game when we no longer need that ramp. Expedition Map gets us our lands, which we do love. Lotus Field, we're a Lotus Field deck, great to have that. Sensei's Top is just good. Soul Ring, gotta run. Mask of Memory is really good. Mesmeric Orb combos with our like Sun Titan effects and all that, getting our lands into the graveyard, allowing our Savine's Reclamation to be online more often, but also combos with Basalt Monolith, milling our whole deck. I won't get into that now. I have another video on that, but we just are going to keep on pushing here. Scroll Rack, great draw. Surveyor's Scope, we run a lot of fetches. This goes really nicely with those. We can crack them and pretty much we can get many lands. Basalt Monolith is good ramp, but combos with our Mesmeric Orb. Crucible Worlds, we use fetches, allows us to hit our land drops, because that's the most important thing. Sword of Feast and Famine, we already talked about. Sword of Fire and Ice is draw and interaction. Sword of Hearth and Home is ramp and a blink, which is usually more destruction or more ramp, whichever one we need. The One Ring, great draw. Earnest Fellowship allows us to protect our creatures easier, as they're all white, making things targeting them white, great protection. Luminarch Ascension is really good. It's hard to pull off, but because we make so much mana, if we do get it off, it's pretty difficult for us to lose at that point. Out of Time phases out all the creatures and combos with one of our lands, so we can keep recurring it. Really good early board wipe. Council, Court of Ardenvale is again another way to draw cards, but also Sun Titan brings back a land, helps us ramp. But if we can't ramp it, gets us back a fetch land, so we can keep on fetching it up. Trouble in Pairs, great draw. Arid Archway turns on our ketchup ramp, as well as makes our hands like that have lands like a 2-lander is now a 3-lander with Arid Archway. Helps us make sure that we hit our land drops every turn. No, we didn't do it in 10 minutes, but we're going to keep on going. Fetches to combo with all our fetch synergies. Deserted Temple to untap our big lands. More fetches in Fabled Passage. Flagstones of Tarkir combos with our Lotus Field, getting us another plains if it gets sacrificed. Flooded Strand is a fetch. Gillis Commons is an Arid Archway, bouncing our land. Hall of Heliod's is what we use to get back our enchantments, like the Out of Time to keep looping it. Lotus Field, it turns on our ketchup ramp. Marsh Flats allows us to fetch, of course. Maze of Ith gives us protection. Our life usually goes down really quickly. Being able to stop attackers is really good, and it also helps us when we're trying to get our counters on Luminarch Ascension. Nykthos makes a lot of mana. We have 16 planes. Prismatic Vista is a fetch. Talon Gates of Mangara is essentially ramp, but it has other utility outside of ramp if we don't need it. Terramorphic Expanse is a fetch. Thespian Stage can turn into whatever land we need it to be. Urborg makes it so that we can tap our fetches for mana if we want to do bigger fetch land stuff with the, what's this card called? With a Cosmic Intervention. Urza's Cave gets us a land. Vesuva copies a land, and we have a fetch and a Yavimaya that does the same thing as Urborg. So, we got through it. 11 minutes and 45 seconds. Hopefully that was enough information for y'all. But yeah, it's just removal, ramp, card draw, and we have big mana payoffs, and it's just it's a good time. You always have something to do. Not a very aggressive deck, so if you want to do something every turn, you're usually taking the first few turns off to kind of just like feel out other people's decks, taking it slow, and then going for it. But for those who are interested, that's going to be the end of the video. But for those who are interested, we're going to talk about Weathered Wayfarer really quick. Weathered Wayfarer will allow us to, if you have a plains and you don't go first, you play Weathered Wayfarer turn 1. Turn 2, activate, find Flagstone, play it. Turn 3, you activate, find Lotus Field, play that, sacrificing Flagstone. So now you're on turn 4, and you have 4 mana. You activate because you're now at 2 lands, so you should be less. Finding a Thespian Stage, and now you play the Thespian Stage, and then you turn that into a Lotus Field. Then you untap on your turn 5. You now have Thespian Stage, which is a Lotus Field, and a Lotus Field for 6, and a land for 7. You activate, finding your Deserted Temple, play Deserted Temple. So now you have untapped Deserted Temple, untapped Lotus Field, untapped Thespian Stage, which is 3 mana for Lotus Field, 3 mana for your second Lotus Field, which is 6. Use 1 of that mana, you're now down to 5 to untap your other Lotus Field with Deserted Temple. So now you went from 6 to 5, and then you add 3 more, meaning 8. 8 mana turn 5, and it stays there. Can't be interacted with outside of a board wipe because a lot of it has hexproof. So that's going to be it for today's video. Hopefully you did all enjoy it. Yeah, I can go over this Basalt Monolith combo really quick. Sorry, I keep saying it's the end of the video, but I guess it's not. Thank you for staying if you're still here. Mesmeric Orb, Basalt Monolith. Pretty much Basalt Monolith, you can tap it and untap it infinitely, giving you Mesmeric Orb, milling your whole library. Through milling your whole library, you can control your graveyard with an Ulamog or Butcher, Ulamog or Kozilek, because through infinitely milling, you can now control what is in your graveyard, which means that you can control what's in your deck. So if you need a board wipe, you can put everything outside except for board wipes and your 2 Eldrazi Titans, and make sure that you probably will get that. And that's why we run the Senseis, to kind of make sure that we do hit that, because now you can look at your top deck, but it pretty much allows us to recycle our Ugin as well, because there's no real way to recycle Ugin. There you are, Ugin, allowing you to put it back in the deck. And let's say, let's say you have Sensei's top, you can put everything except for Ugin and the Titans into the graveyard. Use Sensei's top. I'm sorry, I'm just talking, but I forget that you guys are on the screen. If you have Sensei's top, now you can control that and pretty much infinitely loop Ugin, because you can drop Ugin, rip him for 7. He dies, you shuffle him back in, Sensei's top him back, and you can just keep on doing that infinitely to usually win the game. So hopefully you all did enjoy the video. 15 minutes. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Hopefully it was informative. I'll pop back up here for a little bit of description. I'll put this is the name, that's where I am if you want to follow me on Moxfield. Whew. But I'll put it, of course, in the description below, and hopefully you did all enjoy the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.